Greetings, citizens, and thanks for tuning in to Nindie Nation episode 84. I'm Jeff, and if you're new here, welcome to your one-stop weekly shop for everything independently developed for the Nintendo Switch. This week, we'll take a look at all of the new indie games releasing for the Switch from September 26th through October 2nd. And when we're done with all of that, I'm confident you'll find just the thing to keep your Joy-Cons synced. Nindie Nation posts to podcast feeds and YouTube on Tuesday, and we're brought to you by the Nintendo Village. If you're looking for even more content, we've got weekly streams of Nindies every Thursday and a slew of other content already out there on the Nindie Nation YouTube channel. If you see something you like or you just want to chat more about Nindies, leave us a comment or hit us up on Twitter at Nindie Nation. After such a surprise-filled week last week, we're back to the usual grind, but there's a little bit of something for everyone this week, so as always, before we get into the new stuff, we have to first check in on all of the games that released last week without warning. So to kick things off, here are the 5 neglected Nindies and 3 Nindie No-Nos released since episode 83. We kick off this week's neglected Nindies with a little
warm jazz. Oh yeah.
Wait, I'm sorry. This says Worm Jazz, and it's by Inconspicuous Creations. I like that name.
Clever.
So this is a cross between Snake and Bomberman. You're trying to get from point A to point B, but you also get infinite undos and there's no timer. So it's just super chill puzzle solving, which is good because if you pick this one up for $8.99, your entire Worm experience will actually be accompanied by a soundtrack of
warm jazz.
Rebel Galaxy Outlaw is an interesting one to sneak by last week. Developed and published by Double Damage Games, this is a space dogfighting game that takes place in a dark, comedic, futuristic, spacefaring world similar to last year's The Outer Worlds. It's $30 and is the second title in this series, with both of them being very well received. Probably the biggest neglected Nindie to hit the eShop last week was Indoor Astronaut and Daedalic Entertainment's Unrailed for $19.99. With a friendly, pixelated, isometric perspective, your goal is to guide a train across the map, but instead of directly controlling it, you must lay track in real time and clear obstacles that end up in the train's way. This is one you're going to want to play with friends, but that shouldn't be too hard, as it includes multiplayer for both online and off, with both co-op and competitive modes. Unrailed is getting rave reviews so far, and it looks like a lot of fun. Radaleka and FobT Interactive had a little retro arcade game drop last week with Jet Set Knights for $7.99. It's a single-screen game for up to 4 players where you must protect an on-screen princess from hordes of invading enemies and mixes in classic-style action with elements from more modern RPG and tower defense titles. And I really wanted to like this next release by Nindie newcomer, does that say Games Farm? Not sure what I think about that one. Their neglected Nindie from last week is Air Mission's HIND, which started rekindling fond memories of older airplane and helicopter games like Warhawk or Terminal Velocity. But unfortunately, they've got their own type of trifecta where the game is being reviewed pretty poorly, they're a developer with no track record to speak of, and they're charging $25. I mean, I want to fly around in a Russian helicopter and shoot things just as much as the next guy, but come on. Unless you've got a bona fide Nindie hit on your hands, $25 is just asking for extra scrutiny. And they're back this week, citizens. That's right, we've got a cool trio of games this week that earn the coveted title of Nindie No-No. That means under no circumstances do they deserve a place on your Switch. So don't come asking me again when these are the next Bouncy Bob games that end up as a penny on the eShop and topping the digital download charts. The best kind of Nindie No-Nos are the ones where you genuinely can't tell if what they delivered is what they set out to create. And Deco Publishing did just that with Assault Chain Guns KM, which appears to be a light gun game, but you just tap on the touchscreen or use Joy-Cons, and the graphics look like a Sega Saturn mech combat game. I don't know what's going on here, but I would focus your $10 elsewhere. On the other side of the coin, the worst kind of Nindie no-no is when companies like Winterworks take a free mobile app and try to charge $7 for it. Animals for Toddlers is actually a thing that exists on my personal iPad from when my son was 1 year old. It's a JPEG of a farm with 7 JPEGs of farm animals, and when you tap them, they make a sound. At $7, or really just at all, someone should tell Nintendo that nobody wants this crap on the Switch. Am I right? And the third kind of Nindie no-no is the one that is completely subjective because I think it's so stupid that I'll never recommend it, but it's also one of those things that could be a huge cultural phenomenon that people around the world love and I've just never heard of. So I could sound like an old man yelling at a cloud, I don't know. But Selfie Collection, the Dream Fashion Stylist, is basically a porcelain anime version of playing dress-up dolls on your Switch for $19.99 by G-Crest! Apologies, all capital letters. Apparently Selfie with a Y is a thing, but otherwise the game just looks like these crappy little games that I see my daughter playing on her Kindle Fire, and they're just I mean, you put clothes on a doll, then they tell you if they like the outfit, then you take pictures of them and try to get people in a fake social media site tell you they like you. It's a complete waste of time on an entirely new level of meta. But hey, Unrailed seems like a slam dunk this week, and Rebel Galaxy looks like a modernized PC space shooter, and I'm all about that nostalgia trip. What about you? Am I totally wrong about the selfie thing? Let me know in the comments or on Twitter at Nindie Nation. Looking ahead to next week, there's a couple of titles I know you're going to want to check out, and at least a few that you'll probably want to avoid. But if you're into high-quality side-scrolling platform adventures, there's a lot to like this week. So enough chit-chat, citizens. Here are the 18 new releases dropping from September 26th through October 2nd. The week is off to a not-so-spooky start with Mr. Tired Media and Sekai Games' Undead Darlings, No Cure for Love, which releases on September 28th for $29.99. It's an anime-inspired first-person dungeon crawler through a high school infested by zombies that are more silly-looking than they are scary. It features turn-based RPG combat, and your role is that of the drunk who follows around a band of high school zombie fighters and carries all of their shit for them. Really? Ooh, you smell that? It seems like it is finally time for the elusive
Bacon Man, an adventure,
which has eluded us for 2 weeks in a row now, but is finally releasing on September 29th by SkyMap Games for $9.99. This game is falling into that category where all the reviews say,
"Holy crap, this is actually pretty good."
And it takes elements from multiple Metroidvanias to create a large open world for you to dash and combo your way through. Of any game, I get the most vibes of this game from Guacamelee, and that's a good thing. With lots of satire, multiple playable characters, 2-player co-op, and more bacon puns than you could, sizzle in a skillet? Bacon Man is actually turning out to be quite the little gem. Projection First Light at first glance looks like Limbo, using a stark silhouette visual style married with precise platforming, but it isn't just a cheap knockoff. It actually uses its style to tell the story of silhouette-type art through generations and regions spanning the globe. The closer you look at this game, the more interesting it becomes. Projection is developed by Blowfish Studios and is published by Shadowplay Studios, and you can break free of your shadow when it hits the eShop on the 29th for $15.99. The pick of the week, at least in terms of games I've played and can speak to, is Alwa's Legacy, the upgraded, modernized sequel to 2017's Alwa's Awakening by Elden Pixels. I backed this game on Kickstarter, so I've already been able to play a couple of demos, and I've had the full version on PC for a while now. Let me tell you, this is a must-buy for scratching that retro but modern exploration puzzle platformer itch. It's got everything: combat, puzzles, plenty of secrets to uncover, and a rewarding story that does not require you to play the first entry, which is good because Awakening might be a bit too old school for some Nindie Nation citizens. This sequel ramps up the production levels to make Alwa's Legacy sit among the better titles in this category. I strongly recommend Alwa's Legacy for $17.99 if you're looking for a retro-inspired yet modern adventure to embark on. On September 30th, we get a classic PC-style point-and-click adventure called Detective Case and Clownbot in Murder in the Hotel Lisbon. It's, developed by Nerd Monkey and launches for $9.99. The big Thursday drop is also on the first day of October and features 10 brand new indies, starting with WARSAW by Crunching Koalas for $19.99. It's been a while since we've heard from this studio, but their past efforts with games like Mousecraft and Licked Spear have traditionally been well received. Based on the story of Warsaw Under Siege in 1944, this game employs a very attractive hand-drawn comic book aesthetic with a title that is a turn-based RPG with minor elements including town building, real-time strategy, and survival as well. If you like Darkest Dungeon, pay attention here because the combat system looks very similar and early reviews are very promising. Warsaw is an aspirational game with a lot of gameplay styles that should prove beneficial in the game's goal of immersing you in the historical conflict with the feeling that you could be the turning point in this city's war. Ultimate Games is publishing their first title by the team at Nasty Cloud this week, and that game is a side-scrolling adventure called Nubarron: The Adventure of an Unlucky Gnome. The presentation is nice with a storybook art style that we're starting to see a lot more often. In fact, there's a lot about this game that seems very similar to other titles, and while it appears perfectly fine releasing for $9.99, I'm struggling to find anything that really stands out about this game.
Hey you! Do you like hardcore adventures where you take on the role of an even harder core badass tasked with beating the crap out of a bunch of demons? Well, so do I. But sometimes it's fun to try out something a little different, you know? These 4 cute Asian girls couldn't care less about little photo stickers. They'd rather play with some rifles and filthy, filthy cash.
It's funny, but I'm not sure it does the best job of explaining Orange Blood by Greyfax Software and published by Playism. It's a turn-based RPG set in the late 90s and inspired by the hip-hop of that time, so kinda like Splatoon? But it's about a band of pixelated anime girls living on a man-made island where something has gone horribly wrong. The mechanics are built around gunplay, and the RPG battles look like a lot of fun. If you want a ticket to this 90s hip-hop inspired anime
Beatdown City,
it'll cost you $20. Forever Entertainment drops a new title for $13.49 this week that carries almost the exact same vibes as Orange Blood, but in a 4-player twin-stick party game called Hot Shot Burn. It features online multiplayer in case you can't get buddies together in person, and it features a bunch of modes and levels and such, but you know how I feel about these games. There's just so many of them that it's hard to stand out unless you're really one of the best. John Dussoff tripped and fell as they walked by the eShop this week and forgot to pick up Smoots World Cup Tennis because it definitely doesn't look finished unless they're going for
tennis game that looks like Wii shovelware.
Maybe I'm totally wrong here, but I don't really see any reason to shell out $10 for this one. Oh, here's a new publisher with promise. Well, promise for making it into a future Nindie No-Nos list. The publisher is called
Lan-Games Eud.
And I think that actually might be a typo in their name, and it should say good, not Eud, but whatever. Oh, and their game is called Farm Builder, and it's some kind of jigsaw puzzle-based board game for $8 that we probably don't need to discuss any further. And we've got another publisher yet to grace the eShop. This one is called KR Game Studios, and their first release for the Switch is called Candy Raid: The Factory for $4.99. It's an 8-bit top-down puzzle adventure about a candy-obsessed witch named Candy. It looks like something I would have rented at Blockbuster only when everything else was already out of stock. No Gravity Games publishes a falling block puzzle game by Red Dev Studio that might actually be one of the first original, well, kind of original ideas I've seen in this genre in a long time. PowerTris mixes Tetris-style gameplay with the pipe flow mechanics of games like Pipe Dream. You know, the ones where you have to guide a current or water through connected pipes, kinda like the mini-games in BioShock? Like that? No? PowerTris doesn't look like anything real fancy, but the approach is unique and it's only $4. Huh, neato. And, this one might not count as a Nindie, but it is developed and published by Dotemu, one of the larger indie studios who's revitalized other series with releases like Streets of Rage 4 and the newer Wonder Boy entries. E's Origins, which many people may assume is pronounced Wise because of how it's written, is the port of a fairly recent entry in the E's series of action RPGs that, as the name suggests, acts as the beginning of the series' story. If you're in the mood to dig into a meaty JRPG on the Switch, and you like more action-oriented combat, for $15.99, this is a great pick. I might be getting this one. Rounding out the week on October 2nd, we have 4 more indies for you this week, the first of which features preview images that are going to give me nightmares. Make a Killing is something scary and first person and freaky. Man. It's all black and white. I think it looks like a pretty good game. Can't say I know much of Dystopia Interactive, but yeah. This is a black and white kinda survival shooter thing. It's $10 and it is really spooky. Oh, and Dystopia has another game this week. This one is called 103 or 103 or 103. I'm not sure. 103, as it were, is a first person. Oh, it's in color. You play as a little girl. Oh, something horrible happened to her, and she's lost her memory of it, and guess what? It's your job to help her use her messed up imagination to remember what horrible things happened to her the night she learned to talk to Satan or whatever. That's another one for $10. Jeez. The games this company makes look pretty good, but whew, that's some nightmare fuel. This next one is called Logic Puzzle Collection Sudoku Permudoku Nonodoku, and it's apparently no price oku. It's developed oku by Diplodocus Oku Games Oku, and it's got Logic Puzzle Collection Oku Sudoku Permudoku Nonodoku, and features DLC for Dododoku and Polkadoku. Doku. And your final new Nindie of the week is, as usual, brought to us by Radaleka Games. Birthday of Midnight is the third entry in a dark, pseudo-creepy puzzle platformer that plays like a mini-golf game. Think of something like Super Meat Boy, but instead of running and jumping, you're starting out the level by whacking this little marshmallow golf ball-like dude across the screen. It's $5, and with that, we wrap up this week of new releases. Do you see anything you're feeling this week? Personally, I'm all about Bacon Man. That looks hilarious. And make sure you don't miss Alwa's Legacy. That PowerTris game looks cool too. Let me know what you're adding to your wish list in the comments or on Twitter at Nindie Nation. This week's deals are especially exciting because we're seeing some all-time favorites reach all-time lowest prices. So while you may have heard some of these deals in the last couple of months, if you've yet to pick them up, now is the time. With over 583 games currently on sale, here are our picks for the best Nindie deals valid through at least October 2nd. Iconoclasts is a wonderful Metroidvania that way more people should be playing. It's got a style that is vivid and inviting, yet rife with brain-bending puzzles mostly built around physics and simple machines. The soundtrack is stellar, the characters are wonderful, and the game length is in my personal favorite sweet spot of around 10 to 12 hours. Currently, Iconoclasts is at its lowest price ever, 60% off for $7.99. It is published by Sega, but Sonic Mania is absolutely an independently developed game that started out as a fan-made project. Really, you should read or watch something that details the process of how this game was made. It's remarkable. In my opinion, and I love 2D Sonic games, it's the best Sonic game there is, easily at least standing up to the Genesis classics. It's only $10 too, which is half off and an awesome deal. The Gardens Between is a great pickup if you like solving puzzles intertwined with a story that will make you pay attention and stick with you after it's through. It's a surreal story about childhood best friends who explore their strongest memories together through time-bending puzzles, and even though it's short, maybe 3 hours, it's also at its lowest price ever, 70% off for $6, which makes it a story well worth experiencing. Snake Pass! Remember Snake Pass? It's the silly little indie that was one of the first of note to release on the Switch back before we were getting 30 games a week. It's best described as a game that makes you quote-unquote
Think like a snake.
And while it has some frustrating moments, it's a ton of fun. Say it with me, because Snake Pass is also at its lowest price ever, with a discount of 75% for only $4.99. And hey, if you want more silly animal-themed Nindies, Untitled Goose Game's multiplayer patch is now live, and to celebrate, the game is sitting at its previously lowest price of $15. This game is a blast, and I think anyone can find joy in it. But man, I tell ya, if you've got kids, mine are 3 and 7, this game is pure rocket fuel for guaranteed belly laughs with all of the ridiculous antics you can get into. I can barely count on one hand the amount of times all 4 members of my family were in tears laughing at a video game, and Untitled Goose Game sits at the top of that list. Maybe I should make a Let's Play with my daughter now that the patch is out. I've already told you how much I love it ad nauseum, but I'd be remiss if I skipped it. Fury Unleashed is half off again for only $10, and it's in my top 5 Nindies of the year. There's a nice meaty demo available if you want to try it for yourself first. Basically, take a run-and-gun action platformer, theme it around half comic book, half 80s action movie, and throw that into procedurally generated levels with roguelike mechanics and RPG elements. And as far as I'm concerned, you've got yourself a winner. Whew, bet you were worried we weren't going to have one this week, huh? Plus I had to include it because we didn't have any trifectas. Come on. And here's another one that I'll keep mentioning until I think enough people have played it. It's an oldie, but a goodie. Velocity 2X is 75% off for $4.99 and gets you a game that is half futuristic space shmup and half Metroid action platformer, but all awesome. I think this is a game that a lot of people overlook, and if you've considered it but you're just not sure if it'll grab you, maybe this is the week you finally pick it up. And fans of the retro-inspired indies should take note because the masters at Inti Creates have Blaster Master Zero marked down 80% for a meager $5. This is just one of those indies that takes a bunch of awesome 8-bit tropes and throws them in a blender with an excellent soundtrack, a ton of DLC, great gameplay, and a new Game Plus mode that'll give you a ton of replay value. I wasn't a huge fan of the sequel because I think it got just a little too big, but the original Blaster Master Zero is a game that any retro fan should add to their library. And finally this week is a really fun arcade score chasing game that is very unique and I personally love, Towaga Among Shadows. This kinda but not really twin stick missile defense kinda game, just go check it out, it's really cool. And it's currently way lower than it's ever been for 50% off at only $7.50. And I think if you own any other Forever Entertainment games, you'll get an even bigger discount. There's way more content in here than I originally thought, and I've been meaning to do a Let's Play of this one forever. Maybe I will. Either way, go check it out. And with that, we've got another week in the can. What does that mean anyways? Let me know what you're checking out in the comments or on Twitter. And don't forget to check out the rest of our YouTube channel. I've got a couple of videos I've been working on that I can't wait for you to see, including some Hades content first. You can never have too much Hades content. Also, come back this Thursday for another Nindies at Night. Last week we played Breakpoint and Going Under, which is an awesome game that got totally overshadowed by Hades last week that I will definitely be recommending when it first goes on sale. Check out that stream and all of the others on our YouTube channel, and let me know what you want to see when we meet back up this Thursday at 10 p.m. Eastern. If you're looking for more Nintendo-related content, well, everything Nintendo you could ever want is over at the Nintendo Village. That's where our friends are posting daily articles, weekly podcasts, and keeping up with a great YouTube channel. You can find all of their content in one place at thenintendovillage.com. Next week, we've got everything from Nindie trifectas to chill puzzle games, and a series of 3 games that I'm not sure if we're gonna count as a Nindie. But we don't have to worry about that right now because we're all done for this week. Thank you for watching or listening to Nindie Nation this week, and I'll see you all back here next Tuesday. Until then, I'm Jeff. This has been Nindie Nation episode 84, and no matter what type of game you're into, we'll be right here every week trying to figure out what the Sudoku Permudoku Nonodoku is to help you find just the thing to keep your Joy-Cons synced.